Italian Football Podcast.
Hello everybody and welcome to the Italian Football Podcast. I'm Carlo Garganese, joined as always by Nima and on today's show we will review the weekend Serie A action as Inter go 4 points clear after another impressive win, this time in Rome against Lazio. Juventus' good run comes to an end with a disappointing draw at Genoa. It's a dream debut for Jan-Carlo Simic, the Milan youngster who scored on his debut as Milan beat Monza. Napoli returned to winning ways in Serie A thanks to a monstrous Victor Osimhen. Bologna, though, stay fourth, ahead of Napoli, with another big scalp as they beat Roma, with José Mourinho causing yet more controversy. We're also going to react to the Champions League Last-16 draw, some really tough games for Inter, Napoli and Lazio. And also we will react to the Europa League draw and we'll do the usual Baggio, Premface and Serie Ass of the week. For all our first-time listeners, this is our free weekly episode that we do every Monday, reviewing the weekend Serie A action and all the biggest talking points in Italian football. If you want to support the Italian Football Podcast and receive all of our content that we do throughout the week, including a weekly Q&A episode every Tuesday where we answer all our questions from our patrons, plus the weekly Thursday midweek review show, plus interviews, post-match reaction and much, much more, then go to patreon.com/TIFP and become a subscriber for just $2.99 a month plus VAT. And now you can also sign up to be a paid subscriber on Spotify. We'll provide the link in the description. It's the same price, same terms. And for all of you that listen on Spotify, Apple and iTunes podcasts, we'd really appreciate if you give us a 5-star rating, give us a follow and a like. We're on YouTube as well. It really helps us grow and do more quality content for you guys. Okay, so let's get into today's show. Okay, so we start off with Inter, who, as I said there in the introduction, go 4 points clear at the top after beating Lazio 2-0 at the Stadio Olimpico. And Nima, I think this game again shows what a fantastic team this Inter team are, because in my opinion, they played against a Lazio team who I actually think played pretty well in this game.
Oh, I agree 100%. I think Lazio were better than Inter, especially in the first half. But they didn't create that much. They just had one big chance with Immobile header that was, didn't even hit the target. But other than that, I think Lazio played better. But Inter, this is the thing, this Inter side, now Inter have played all the big seven, traditional big seven, and the statistics on display are truly unbelievable. I mean, you've got they've played Milan, Lazio, Napoli, Juve, Fiorentina, Roma, and Atalanta. And if I'm not mistaken, I mean they've won 6, drawn 1. That was the one against Juve. But every other team they've kind of beaten comprehensively, and they've kept so many clean sheets doing so. This is an Inter side that has matured incredibly together with their coach. This is an Inter side that knows how to suffer, that knows how to stay in games even when things aren't working, when the opposition is putting you under pressure. But they work as a unit in both phases. And above all, they're a side that is ruthless. You make a mistake against Inter, they will punish you. And one thing that I want to get to as well is the passing. Because I think the way that they manage these situations is through their superior ability to pass the ball and keep it, retain possession. I can't remember an Inter side that were ever this good at, were ever this safe passes in my lifetime. This ability to, if you allow Inter, they can retain possession until the cows come home without losing it. And it's remarkable. And all of these things are the hallmark, because this always goes to the versatility point. Inter can play without the ball, they can play with the ball. They can suffer, they can attack, they can hurt you in very many different ways, and we saw that against Lazio. They can you press Inter high up, and they can't play their way through. They'll just play a high ball, and they got Thuram who can win the ball, playing a bit more like Conte. But also, as we saw yesterday, they can really play their way through but through their thanks to their passing and their passing schemes through any situation. All of these things, the versatility, the ability to suffer, the maturity, the ruthlessness, these are hallmarks of a team, of a championship winning team. And that's where I think Inter are now. I think there's no hiding away now. This is Inter are clear favorites. They're on route. If they win the next 3 games, they will have 50 points at the halfway point, which is exactly what Napoli had. This is Inter's Scudetto now to lose. It is, even though they're only 4 points ahead of Juve. We can't, we're so far into the season now that you can't hide away from that fact.
No, you can't. Absolutely, Inter are in an incredible position to win the Scudetto. I mean, I would even go so as far as to say that Inter almost have to lose it from here. Look at the points difference is +4 on Juventus, which is it's not it's not that significant at this stage, but it's still important. +9 on Milan, +14 on Napoli, which is massively significant. But what I think is key is look at the fixture list and look at who Inter have played so far this season. They've already played Juventus, Napoli, Atalanta, Lazio away, and Milan, of course, is a neutral venue. So the only big team that Inter have to play away from home in the second half of the season is Roma.
Well, Fiorentina too.
Well, Fiorentina, yeah, I guess we can kind of count that. But I mean, the really big teams, the teams, right at the top challenging for top 4, they played all of them already, except for Roma. So when you add to that, the points difference, they add to that the fact that Inter have the best team, they have the best and the deepest squad. They statistically, and I would add on paper, have the best attack and the best. I mean, Napoli might argue against that, the best attack, but certainly on statistically, in terms of the goals scored and everything, chances created, the best attack. They have the best defence. I mean, I think there's more. There's also the chance that Inter could even run away with this, and also Inter have a great run of fixtures now in the next 4 to 5 weeks, up until the end of January, where there's a slightly difficult run that comes up. Until then, Inter can go on a winning run. So I think Inter are in a great position. But the one thing I wanted to expand on, the point that you just made there, is twofold: Inter's defence and knowing how that, and the defence and the team knowing how to suffer. I think that's absolutely key, because I think that Lazio were the better team in the first half, in a similar way to that Napoli were the better team in the first half when they played at the Maradona. And in both of those games, both Lazio and Napoli were dominating territory. They were in the Inter's half. They were pressing really well. They were winning it back quite quickly. Inter were struggling to get out. But despite all that, neither Napoli in that first half or Lazio in the first half on Sunday night barely created anything. And Inter's defence was so strong. And I actually think the only big chance that Lazio had in this whole game was the Ravella chance when he went on the run in the second half, and it just kind of opened up for him. And he was 1-on-1, but then I think he just got a bit tired and he lost his balance, and someone made the save. But Inter know how to suffer without actually suffering. If that makes sense.
Yeah,
we're not talking suffering where the team has chance after chance and you can say, well,
they don't concede that much.
Yes, that's what I mean.
Yeah, they don't concede that much, and I think that against Lazio we saw that the defense is incredibly solid. I mean,
and also this is a weakened defense. I mean, it's a defense that's got players out. Do you know what I mean? No Pavard. Darmian was playing as a right wing back.
Is Quadrado. Yeah, Bastoni just came back from injury. De Vrij is out. Look, when it comes to depth, I think yes, Inter have depth in defense. They do. Midfield, I would say they have depth, but they have no depth in attack.
I think that's it. I think that's the key point. I think the only way that I can see Inter not winning the Scudetto is if something happens. Let's just say Lautaro gets out for 3 months, and maybe then Thuram's out for a while, a little bit as well. Like if something happens, they get a lot of bad injuries in the attack. That could slow them down. Otherwise, this Inter team looks the complete package. They can play in different ways. They can defend, they can attack, they can suffer, they can play on the counter, they can play with the ball. They're so strong mentally. They're so good on set pieces. They can play you technically. They can play you physically. They're so complete, and that's what gives me hope. We'll talk about the Atletico Madrid draw in a bit later on, but that's what gives me hope also for that game. Is that I just feel like this Inter team, it's like however you try and play them, I feel like they've got the answers.
They do. They're very versatile. They're very, very versatile. They can play calcio verticale. They can play without possession, with possession. They're unbelievable. Like I said, it's probably the best. I can't remember watching an Inter side that was this safe passes, that were this good at retaining possession, that have so many passing schemes, scare me, that had so many passing lanes. This isn't just random possession. They have possession that matters, and they have an idea, a clear, coherent...
And they can manage games as well. Like they can take breathers in games. They can take 20 minutes out of a game and just breathe, take a breather, and then get back on it. And they just look like an incredibly mature team. And I've said it so many times. I don't want to keep repeating myself, but I do feel like that Champions League final has given them so much from a mental point of view. So much. They look so sure in themselves. Whatever happens, even when they go behind, like they did against Juventus, like they don't stress. They don't stress. They just look the complete thing. They just look the complete package. I can't see any weaknesses. I'm trying to look for them because I want a title race. Nothing to do with the Juventus thing. I want a title race. We all, I think. Well, Inter fans don't, but you know what I mean. We don't want to see Inter win by 20 points. It's not good for the Serie A. But, I just think Inter look really great. They look great. And obviously, they've got the players up front that make the difference. I mean, they pounce, and that's another difference. Another thing that Inter have improved this season. They're a lot more clinical in attack. Remember Inzaghi's first season? Do you remember the XG table in the season that Milan won it? Which was insane. Like Inter's expected goals and expected points was off the charts, but they were missing chance after chance. They were having games where they had like XGs of 4 and not winning.
And also last season as well, the same thing with Lukaku. I mean, there was the same. It's been the same problem.
Well, even Lautaro, to an extent, had those games as well.
Without a doubt, of course, without a doubt. Because that's what I was saying. I mean, I never thought that Lautaro would become the killer in the box that he's become. But Inter have patiently built around him and decided that he's going to be the man that they build around. And Lautaro has taken step by step for the last 2 seasons to the point where he is now, and where he's 2 goals away. I think I saw a stat where he's now, 2 or 3 goals away from equaling the all-time goal tally by an Inter player for a calendar year at 32.
I think he's got the most since 2000, I believe.
Yeah, 2000, but I'm talking about in a calendar year in all of Inter's history.
Yeah.
32 is the record, and I think he's on 29 now.
Who is that, out of interest?
I think it was Istvan Neyers. I think it was. I think I saw a stat on that. I can't remember exactly, but
I mean, he's become ruthless now, Lautaro. He's become ruthless. I mean, okay, he's 1-on-1. You expect a top world-class striker to put one away, but it wasn't that easy. He had to take it round him. He then had to come in from the angle. The defender slid on the ground. That was Inter's first chance of the game. Lazio were the better team up until that stage, but this is what Inter have become now. They've become ruthless as well. Lautaro is great. I mean, even Thuram is taking his chances now. I mean, Thuram, that's his weakness. He's not the most clinical, but even recently he's putting his chances away as well. I mean, 22 goals between Lautaro and Thuram. Thuram's a joint assist man, top assist man in Serie A.
I just double checked. It's Istvan Neyers, 32, it's the number of it's 32. It's 32. For the calendar year with Istvan Neyers.
He's got 2 games left.
Yeah, and he's on 30 now. If I'm not, no, he's on 29. Yeah, I
think Dusan Vlahovic got 33. If I'm not mistaken, that amazing season before it all went wrong. But amazing year. Okay, well let's talk about Lazio then, because I repeat. I actually thought this was maybe even Lazio's best performance of the season. Like if we consider the level of team they're playing against, I thought they were really good. I thought the first half, they dropped Luis Alberto, who has been clearly their best player this season. But I actually think it worked in the way that they were able to press as a team and with the intensity. And I thought Ravella started to show, not consistently throughout the whole game, but in stages of this game, he started to show his potential and like what he could be. And obviously he did that great run, which, it's a shame of the bad finish, but that was a great run. I thought Lazio were good. Obviously they didn't create that much. I other than that Rovella chance, that Immobile one that you said. But I thought there were positives for Lazio from this game.
I agree. I think so as well. I think Rovella was a big positive. I think one thing though that I think was a big negative is Daichi Kamada. I'm so disappointed. I expected so much more from him, and he's just not worked well at all in that system in at Lazio, and I think it's a shame because I really thought. I mean, I had him as my breakout player this season, and he's far from that. He's not even close to that. He's actually been he's a candidate for flop of the season, if we're perfectly honest. And I'm really disappointed in that. And I think it's sad to see because you look at this Lazio side and you see Luis Alberto, Ciro Immobile, Daichi Kamada. None of these players can make it. Sarri can't make it work with them in his system, and that's a problem.
I thought he was a bit better in this game, though. If I'm honest, I thought he did all right in this game. As a season, yes, you're right, absolutely. He's been a massive disappointment. But I just wonder whether maybe he's just incompatible with Luis Alberto. I think that's it. But yeah, I think there were positives. Look, we still saw the weaknesses in Lazio in the sense that the defense didn't make any mistakes last season. They make a horrific mistake. How Marisic does for the goal. Yeah. I mean, that's just. Making a blind pass like that. I mean, that's just unforgivable. And then, of course, the attack is lacking a cutting edge. It's been
blunt. It's completely blunt.
Yeah.
There's no killer instinct. It doesn't feel like it has it. Immobile is trying to be that player, but he isn't that player in the Sarri system. And look, I say again, Lotito, this is what happens when you try to shoehorn too much square pegs, round holes, you know? You have a coach who has a very clear idea of how he wants to play, and you sold Milinkovic-Savic, who was imperative in that role, and you didn't replace him with someone that really fits. And then you got Immobile, who's getting on in years, and it's at some point it doesn't work. And I think that's what we're seeing now. It's a shame because I don't think Lazio finish in the European spots now. Honestly, I don't think they do. Mm-hmm. And I think
it's going to be difficult, but they're not scoring goals, and that's always going to be a problem. They're missing Milinkovic-Savic's goals, and they're missing the old, let's say, Ciro Immobile, because it's not the same Ciro Immobile. Even Felipe Anderson this season has not been the same. He's got one goal this season. Zaccagni, I've never been the biggest Zaccagni fan. I think he's got 2 goals, got no assists this season. Zaccagni. I've never thought he's a top player. So, I think that,
let's be fair to Lazio. They do have, they got Empoli away, Frosinone at home, Udinese away, Lecce at home. These are four easy winnable games before we reach the halfway point, or just over the halfway point. And if they win all 4, they got 12 points. That takes off the pressure a little bit. And then they got Torino, and before they go into, Napoli and Atalanta in February, and then, of course, Bayern. But no, it's a tricky one. It's a tricky one for them.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on to Juventus then. So Juventus, they had to beat Genoa really to keep toe to toe with Inter, because this Inter team is really not going to give up too much, I don't think, this season. So it is on Juventus to have to keep on winning. They drew 1-1. With Genoa away. Juventus had been on a really good winning run. They'd had 7 wins in 8 going into this game. My biggest takeaway from this game is that it showed that winning run, having that kind of winning run, which is what they need if they're going to try and stick with Inter, is that winning run is going to be unsustainable while a number of certain things are true. And I'm going to explain what those things are. Number 1, it's unsustainable to keep scoring 1 goal a game or by winning by 1 goal. Disregard how Juventus play. I'm just talking about that simple fact. Scoring 1 goal a game or winning by 1 goal is unsustainable. And Juventus's last 6 wins before the Genoa game had all been by 1 goal. 4 of them were by 1 were by 1-0. You can't keep playing to win by one goal. It's impossible in modern football, regardless of how you're playing. Number two, you can't keep winning with your goals coming off corners or by defenders. And Juventus's last 3 wins, the winners were scored by defenders. The previous 2 by of course by Federico Gatti. Number 3, you can't keep winning when your attackers are scoring so few goals and not scoring or not scoring from open play at all. Now, Vlahovic and Chiesa, which I said last week, Chiesa scored a penalty in this game, but Vlahovic and Chiesa both now have 5 goals each this season. The majority of those, of course, were at the start of the season when they had that good start in the first 3 or 4 games. Many of them are penalties, of course. Moise Kean, who's out for the next month with an injury, has got, even though we've praised him this season, like how much his overall game has come on, but he has 0 goals this season. Milik, I think, has been bad. I would even go as far as in many games terrible in this calendar year, not just this season. So it's unsustainable with that level of goal scoring output from your attackers. The last 5 wins, again, that Juventus have had, the winners have come from defenders or from midfielders. So, you had the Moretti goal against Fiorentina, you had the Locatelli goal against Milan, and Gatti actually is Juventus' 3rd top scorer this season with 3 goals. So the point I'm making is, it's been a good run by Juventus, this run of wins. This isn't to take anything away from Allegri and what he's got out of, a team that's had missing players, had Pogba and Fagioli out, isn't the strongest Juventus team of all time. But I think though what I've just read out is the case, this result was always coming. If Juventus are unable to start scoring more than 1 a game, if the attackers don't start scoring, then there's no way that they can challenge Inter. Just no way at all. So I think that's my biggest takeaway, the unsustainability of continuing a run while all those factors are true.
I think I agree with all of that. The only thing I would say is that I think Juventus against Genoa, they actually created quite a bit. They had most of the ball possession. And especially in the first half, I thought they really created. There were, it's like you said, the killer instinct isn't there. But of all the games, I'm surprised that they dropped points in this game, Juve, because I thought they just felt in control against, the other games against Monza and that they felt a little bit under pressure. Here I didn't think Juve were going to drop points in this game. So I'm actually a little bit surprised, given how it looked and how you were played.
The reason why I'm not more critical and I'm not ranting and raving as I would have done last season is, again, like I said, I look at the bottom line in terms of chance creation. I didn't think Juventus created that much in this game, not enough for my liking. But I look at the bottom line. I look at the XG. Juventus had an XG of, I think, just over 2. Genoa had an XG of, I think, 0.8. Yeah. So again, based on those statistics, Juventus are going to get more. Are generally going to win these games on the whole if they continue that. So that's why I'm not too critical. I thought the first half, they were decent. I wouldn't say excellent. The second half, I did think they were very poor in the second half. I look at how Juventus create their chances. They don't create enough from open play still. And most of the chances in this game, there was the penalty, and that came from a mistake. And then the Bremer chance at the end, they really should have scored. That came from a corner. But from a negative point of view, Vlahovic was pathetic again. Pathetic. He missed a really good chance at 0-0 with a great cross from Chiesa. Chiesa, I thought, was Juventus' best player.
I agree.
He put in a fantastic cross for Vlahovic and he put it over. He was taken off midway through the second half. He's also now either been taken off or taken himself off penalties, which again is not a good sign in terms of, I think it's the right thing to do because he's missed so many penalties, but it just shows where Vlahovic is at, the lack of confidence he's got, just where his Juventus career has come, that he's now, he's a number 9, he's taken himself off, he's been taken off the penalties. Vlahovic is just not working for him. The other player I wanted the other point I wanted to raise is Fabio Miretti, because I feel like we've probably taken too long to highlight this. I have anyway. And that is that, yes, when he burst through on the scene, he got a lot of Juventus fans and Italian fans got excited about him. He's a player that, he's got potential. There's a technical talent there. But let's be honest, the last 2 seasons, this season and last season, he's been anonymous. He's just not contributing at all. He's got no goals. He had no goals and 2 assists last season. He's got 1 goal, no assist this season. That's the only goal he scored in his whole Juventus career. Anonymous again in this game as well. I mean, he's not improved. He's not improved at all. And this is where I am going to criticise Allegri, because, again, it underlines the issue that I have with Allegri, that most people have with Allegri, is he just doesn't develop young. I don't see that development of young players, especially offensive players from the midfield and attack, offensive ones. And this is the kind of the problem I have with Allegri, is that I feel like you can only really justify having Allegri as your manager if he wins you the league, regardless of how strong or weak your team is. And again, I say again, this isn't a great Juventus team, and he's been doing well this season in terms of points. But Allegri doesn't build or develop players, youngsters like Moretti, like Chiesa, like Vlahovic. He doesn't improve these players to get them to a point where, you see the progress being made. So with Allegri, if you don't win the title, then the next season, well, these players are still where they were before, and your team is no closer to being ready to win in terms of developing these players for the next coach, if a new coach comes next season. So that's my one criticism of Allegri. And I haven't criticised him a lot, Nima, recently. You got to give me that. You got to give me that. But this is my problem. So that's a wider point on the Moretti point. But just focusing just on Moretti, yeah, he's still young. Maybe I don't think it's too harsh for me to say that in two seasons, this guy, he's not improving. He's not improving at all.
No, I think Miretti. I'm not. I was never excited about Miretti. I was always more excited about Fagioli and Rovella at Juve than I was about Miretti. So I'm not gonna judge Allegri too much about that. But I do think there is. I mean, you look at his career, and it's undeniably true. He doesn't, especially attacking wise. I think defensively, there are different. You can say different things there, but attacking wise, he doesn't develop players, or players don't improve in attacking under him. Let's put it that way, and that is on him. That is entirely on him, and I think that is a big problem. But then again, I don't think he's going to stay at Juve this season as well. I think this is going to be his last season and in charge. And so I think that'll resolve itself, so to speak.
Yeah, I would say that Rabiot was missed. Definitely, he was missed in this game. We saw kind of how important he was. The midfield, it is gutted at the moment, but Rabiot definitely has helped keep it together, hasn't he? With all these players out, I thought Locatelli was really poor, especially the second half. He's given away a lot of balls and not good at all. I don't really want to talk much about the penalties. I hate talking about it, but it was a penalty.
That's the thing, though. I'm not entirely sure it was, because we saw the similar situation in the Inter Lazio game, and the same interpretation prevailed. And that is, if the ball touches a player's body part, one player, ball touches his body part, and then touches his arm, bounces off his knee or bounces off his stomach, as with Lazio, and then hits his arm. The referees don't seem to want to interpret the rule to make that a handball offence. Now, personally, I don't care what the rule law is. I just want it applied the same across the board. I think both of them are penalties, but I also understand and recognise that there is, if a ball bounces off one part of your body onto your arm, you basically have no chance to get your arm out of the way.
The issue with this is that, I'm just speaking specifically on the Juventus one here, is that Bani, it was, his arm is already out there before it hits his body. So it's not like it hits his body and then his arm moves into an unnatural position, which is what happened with the Newcastle one, which caused such a controversy. Whereas with this one, and this is what Luca Morelli said after the game. He goes, it's a penalty. The VAR may have been fooled by the first touch with the thigh, but that is not influential because the arm was already wide. This is a clear penalty kick. I can't understand why the VAR room didn't recall Massa. So, I mean,
Well, this is the thing, though. It's about interpretation, because one of the criteria, I mean, that they use is for the arm or for the handball is, in order to determine that the contact with the ball was a handball offence, the referee uses three general criteria. One, if the player moved his hand or arm to the ball, i.e. deliberate, or if the player had sufficient reaction time to move his hand or arm out of the way of the flight of the ball and failed to do so, again, deliberate, or if the player had his hand or arm in an unnatural position, including from the sides or above the shoulder level, making their body bigger. So it's not as clear cut as that, because of the instructions the referee have received. And this is why, again, they have to clarify what this handball law, they have confused this completely, because the same thing happened with Lazio Inter as well. They're the very similar situation, bounced off a body part up until the arm. The arm is outside, but they applied the same interpretation in these two instances. But the problem is that there is so much confusion, and the issue of deliberate, again, were there. I think that you need to stick with one interpretation that is clear, and after 1 or 2 seasons, the players will understand, everyone will understand, because right now it comes across really arbitrarily, and there's a lot of confusion, and that's why we have this discussion and these debates, which are quite exhausting.
Yeah.
But we do understand that they occur, and the reason they occur is because they have created all this confusion surrounding the handball rule.
Well, they've got to, haven't they? That's what. Otherwise, if IFAB and the rule makers didn't have rules to change every single year unnecessarily, then they wouldn't be able to justify their positions.
I have to say that red card, Malinovsky should not just have received a red card. I think he should have been suspended for 2-3 games. That was a shocking tackle.
Yeah. To be honest with you, though, it was a red card. It doesn't affect the result. It was deep into injury time. So I don't usually moan that much about.
No, I do, because that is a dangerous.
But it's dangerous. Yeah, he could have broken his leg.
He could have broken his leg. That pissed me off, because I couldn't believe. I mean, those are the kinds of challenges that Maradona used to suffer in the 80s. I mean, I don't want to see. We moved away from that. That was genuinely shocking. That pissed me off, because I don't want to see horror tackles like that. I don't want to see Roy Keane, Haaland tackles ever again. I don't like that. I mean, I like tackling, and I think there should be physical aspect of it, but I don't want to see horror tackles. That was a horror tackle. I'm just glad, that they didn't, they could have been out for the rest of the season.
No, he could have done. He could have done. Just before we go, I just want to give another word of praise for Almut Gudmundsson. We picked him out. We did a profile on him earlier in the season. You can find that on our YouTube channel. He's been one of the revelations of the Serie A season,
really
this season. And again, I mean, he scored the equaliser for Genoa. I think he's fantastic. I think he's going to join a bigger club next. Well, actually, some big clubs want him. Napoli were looking at him this summer, actually, as a replacement for when Lozano left, and they were looking for new widemen. He plays more from the left, but he's been playing in the front too for Genoa. He's very versatile, great dribbler. He's the fourth now. He's statistically the fourth best dribbler in Serie A. Do you want to know who the top 3 are, Nima?
Well, Thuram, Thuram has to be among them.
No, he's not.
Really?
No, he's not. Okay. No. If you've been listening to me in recent weeks, you'll know who the number 1 is by a mile. Matthias Sule is number 1. Kvaratskhelia is, joint second. Kvara with Lamek Banda.
Okay.
Who has been amazing.
Where's Leao? Is he on there at all?
Leao is 6th.
Okay.
Yeah, Leao is 6th. 5th is Festi Ebozele.
From
Udinese, who we're going to get on the pod this season.
Hopefully.
We've been promised him. So, yeah. Yeah, cool. Right, okay. Let's move on to Milan then. Milan versus Monza. Milan win 3... Did it finish 3-0 in the end?
Yeah, it did. And Milan were wonderful. I love this. This performance from start to finish was fantastic. The 3-4-3, as some people on this podcast have been banging on for years now. This Milan, either you move to Sarri or you bring in Conte and you play a 3-4-3. I loved Milan in this game. I thought they were outstanding. They looked so clear, coherent in what they wanted to do. They were balanced all over the pitch. I thought, we talk about this on this pod a lot about Italian teams not giving, the big clubs don't play the youngsters. Well, we have to praise Milan here because they had 2 kids on. I know they had to do it, due to injuries, but they still played them. I know he started with Pobega and he got injured, but they did play with Bartesaghi and Jan-Carlo Simic, who scored, and it was. I loved Milan in this game. I thought everyone they just show that this is how this team should play. And with Chiao, Kalulu back, I even think Calabria as a right centre back could work. I think Conte would love him there. The only thing they're missing is a right wing back and a proper striker. And with Conte, then this team is flying because Leao.
What are you suggesting, Nima? Conte next season? Is that what you're trying to suggest?
I'm saying that if Milan want to win a Scudetto, they bring in Antonio Conte next season, and they bring with him Romelu Lukaku or whoever he wants him, and to keep him quiet.
It's interesting. It's interesting because listen, what I was against with the back three, is a 3-5-2. I'm against the 3-5-2 man. I just don't think Rafael Leao, you cannot play him in a 3-5-2. It doesn't work. He doesn't like it. He can't play in that role. He doesn't have the movements to play in the role.
In a 3-4-3.
In a 3-4-3, he can play. Yes, he can play in a 3-4-3. He can play as a wide attacker. So for that reason,
But the thing is, we get the best out of both worlds here because I want to see Leao centralized.
There is always the concern though with the 3-4-3 is it too attacking? Against better teams, I would always have those concerns.
But the thing is with Leao is I want him to be more centralized, but I also want him kind of like Henry was, in the sense that I want him to start from the left, but I want him to be more centralized. I don't want to play him in a 2-man attack because I think that would lose some of his qualities. But in a 3-4-3, you kind of get the best of both worlds in the sense that he is more centralized, but he starts from a wing. And I think you get the best out of him there because when he drops that shoulder and runs past players, when he dribbles, they just can't catch him. And I think so. I think a 3-4-3. I mean, Conte, we know he can play a 3-4-3 or a 3-4-2 on however we want to play with the numbers. And I thought Pulisic was good in that role as well. I really liked him in that role. This is what I'm saying.
Right, the standout player for me was Reinders. I thought he was fantastic in this game. He scored. Brilliant play from him in the build-up to the Okafor goal. That was a great team goal, by the way. Great passing move, great patterns of play. Reinders, Giroud, then Okafor finishing it off. But yeah, Reinders was great. He has potential. I even said that last week after the Newcastle game, didn't I? Or before the Newcastle game. He has those little bursts and surges that break the press, which only a handful of players have. Don't get many players that have that ability to break the press like that. It kind of does remind me in some cases. Reminds me of a bit like a young Mateo Kovacic in the way that he does those little bursts and surges. He obviously we need him to start scoring more goals. Just like that's been Kovacic's big weakness in his career is he doesn't score or assist enough. Doesn't impact the opposition goal enough. But in terms of he has those. I thought he was great. I thought Reinders was great.
I thought Milan were fantastic.
Obviously, it's a great story. Simic that's a great story. He's the third youngest Milan scorer in the 3 points a win era, after Paloschi and Pato. And just on the point you made about the youngsters, as well as Simic and Batazagi who played. I mean, Milan have a really interesting youth production at the moment. The Primavera are doing very well under Abati. And, they've given game time to other Primavera players this season. Kamada, of course, we all know. We
should praise Milan for that.
And Chaka Traore as well is also very well rated.
And we've wanted this. We've been asking for this. So I think we should praise Milan for this, that they're actually a top side in Italian football is starting to integrate the kids. And they do have a pretty young project generally anyway.
Yeah, they do.
So we should praise Milan for that. I think they're going against the grain. So
no, that's good. I also want to just want to give praise again to Mike Maignan, because on a week where he made that absolutely insane save from Bruno G, I'm going to call him, and he made another brilliant save in this game from Colpani.
Yeah, he did.
That was superb.
It was superb, but he wasn't the goalkeeper of the game. That was Di Gregorio. He was unbelievable.
Yeah.
in this game.
Di Gregorio, I've seen some people starting to compare him to Vicario, and he is having that similar kind of impact, isn't he, this season as
Yeah,
Vicario?
he's unbelievable, and he was the man of the match, and he conceded 3 goals. I mean, that just tells you everything.
But there is one big negative, Nima, and this is unbelievable.
Another injury.
Not another injury, another 2 injuries. Pobega's gone off injured in the midway through the first half, and Simic has come on. Okafor scores and looked really bright when he came on, and then he almost immediately after scoring he gets injured and he comes off. So that's Okafor. I mean, Okafor is a joke how many injuries he gets.
Yeah, but I can't blame Milan for that. I mean, the guy, it looked like he injured himself celebrating the goal, for goodness sake. It's just it's getting ridiculous now. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
But yeah, Pobega, that's again, we're hitting 30 muscle injuries now since the season started.
It's insane, isn't it?
I have no words for this.
Yeah, no words. Napoli. Let's move on to Napoli then. Crucial win for Napoli. Must-win game against Cagliari. Wasn't perfect. I mean, Cagliari had some big chances themselves, and they could have got a draw. But I think there's 2 big takeaways for me in this game. Number 1, Victor Osimhen back to his brilliant best. Certainly in those closing stages. I mean, he scores that header, bullet header. Scuffe should have saved it, but anyway. But his assist for Kvaratskhelia was out of this world. I mean, the ball juggling in the penalty area, and then the determination to get the ball across. Whatever all these Premface fans, I saw it. Premfaces on Twitter saying, you would never be able to do that in the Premier League. James Tarkowski wouldn't let him do that. But that was brilliant. That was absolutely fantastic. And so yeah, we saw the importance of Osimhen. Kvara was good again, scored the goal. The whole front for Politano. Can I just say, Politano has one of the best first touches in football. His first touch every time, he just kills it dead every single time. He was unlucky, I thought, with a disallowed goal. So that's the number 1 point, Osimhen. The second point is the importance of Mario Rui, because the last few weeks Napoli have been out without Mario Rui. They've been without Oliveira, and I think Mario Rui, he came on in this game. He immediately gets the assist after coming on. We saw how important Mario Rui is to this Napoli team. He is so undervalued, I think, Mario Rui. He gives that left side of Napoli that dimension that they just don't have, either with Oliveira, but certainly when neither Oliveira or Mario Rui have been there, they've just had no left-hand side. When they've had to play Nathan or Juan Jesus on the left, they've had nothing at all. Mario Rui just gives them that balance. He gives them that attacking thrust. And he is an absolute assist machine, Mario Rui. I mean, the number of assists. I can't remember how many assists he got last season, but
it was a lot. He was quite an assist machine.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I agree.
I'm just looking now how many assists he got last season. Let's have a look. History. All right, let's have a look.
I think it was double figures, wasn't it?
He got 6 assists in Serie A, but he got a bunch in the Champions League as well. But yeah, so he's very, very important for them.
No, I remember under Spalletti, he was very important for how Napoli played, and down the left flank.
Rachmani this season, what has happened to him? I mean,
I don't think anything has happened to him. I think we need to reconcile the fact that before his previous seasons at Napoli, he's played next to world-class defenders, and this season he isn't playing next to world-class defenders, and so he has to carry Napoli, and his weaknesses are being exposed. He doesn't have Koulibaly, he doesn't have Kim next to him, and so he just isn't the leader that we all thought he was, because his weaknesses were being masked by Koulibaly and Kim Min-jae, who, when he played next to them, were world-class defenders. I think it's really that simple. I really think.
I think it probably is. I think you're right. Maybe he's getting a little bit past his best, but he shouldn't be, because he's not that old. I think he's 29. He was done by the goal by Luvumbu, who's actually a really, really talented player, Luvumbu. I thought Cagliari did decently. They were well organised when they were just 10 men behind the ball, but they did create some chances. I mean, I think it was Nandez who had a one-on-one, And Nandez was good. Makumbu was really good in midfield as well. And of course, Pavoletti, if you put crosses into him, he's always going to be a handful in the box. And of course, he scored. So, yeah, Cagliari are, I think, like you said about the relegation race, Cagliari are an interesting one. I think that they're going to fight. They're going to fight against relegation.
Look, barring Salernitana, who unfortunately I think are going down, unless they do give me a Christmas gift and sack Filippo Inzaghi and bring back Davide Nicola for another
don't bet against it.
for another 6 months of shoe throwing, and the greatest escape in recent years that he did with Salernitana a couple of years ago. I would love if Davide Nicola came back, and I would do it in January. I would do it now, because they've got some really difficult games. They got Atalanta away, Milan at home, and then they got Hellas Verona. Now, if they don't at least take 4 points from those games, or at minimum 3 against Verona, this thing could be over by the end of January, because then they play Juve, Napoli, and Roma. So they need to act quickly, and I would love it. And I love that. I love that fan base. I love that piazza. It would be such a shame if they left, if they got relegated. So please bring back the shoe thrower back, and let's have some fun. Let's make all 3 relegate. This will be like literally the holy grail for me. In the past, it's always been one spot that's been exciting towards the end. Now, if Salernitana started winning, all 3 relegation spots are going to be up for grabs. Are there anyone? It's all 3 are up for play. That would be just unbelievable going into April, May.
No. That will be nothing will excite Nima more than that. Nothing more than that. Right, let's move on to Bologna against Roma, and Bologna just do not stop. They do not stop. They win this 2-0, deservedly win this. They stay fourth. They stay fourth. They open 3 points on Roma. Before we go into the game, let's ask this question. We did ask this question a month ago, and it did feel very, very premature back then. Maybe it's still premature now, but can Bologna really go all the way and get a Champions League place?
Well, they can finish in the top 5, but I don't think they'll finish 4th. I think Napoli will wake up now, and they'll get that 4th spot. But I think the 5th spot is up for grabs, and there.
Look at this, Nimo, this season. Look at their record against the big teams this season. They've beaten Roma. They've beaten Lazio. They've drawn with Juventus. They've drawn with Napoli. They've drawn with Inter. They've drawn with Inter away. They drew with Inter. Maybe gave them the most problems anybody's given them this season. Maybe.
They drew Juve away as well.
Yeah. No, Juventus, they were at home. They were at home against Juventus.
It was Juventus at home, Bologna.
Was it Juventus? Oh, sorry. Yeah, you're right. Sorry about that. Yeah.
It's only Milan.
Only Milan they lost. Yeah, Milan they were. Yeah, absolutely right. That they've been consistently fantastic against the big teams this season. So
not just that.
That would suggest that they can.
Yeah, it does suggest that, but they play good football as well.
Yeah,
it's. I look at that Bologna game. I see a lot of interesting, exciting players, but I don't see anything, because I'm not as head over heels in love with Zirkzee like you guys are. I'm a little bit more cautious. I think that when Remo Freuler plays like that, to me that should suggest that this is a club that is coached by a very good coach, but also a club that is that feels well, that is healthy on and off the pitch. And Sartori, the technical director, just look at his career. He was the architect behind the miracle for 20 years at Chievo. He was at Atalanta, and we saw what he did at Atalanta. That's when they were in the latter stages of the Champions League. And now he's repeating this miracle at Bologna. Sartori, everything this man touches turns into gold. And he's created an environment where players all succeed and they take the next step or overperform and are better than the sum of their parts. I don't want to take anything away from Thiago Motta, but this is kind of why I was critical of Sinisa Mihajlovic when he was at Bologna, rest his soul. I thought Bologna underperformed somewhat. Now they're overperforming. But it's incredibly impressive to see what Bologna are doing. It really is. And Thiago Motta, that I will give him praise for. The football they played against Roma was so impressive. So impressive. The way that they played themselves through from the back against a Roma side that aren't easy to break down, and the way that the patient build-up, it was incredibly impressive. He is a coach for a big team.
There's no doubt about it. There's no doubt about it. I mean, the goal, the Moro goal, sums up Thiago Motta's football. The passing patterns, the triangles, the creating the angles and the space and the movements off the ball to open up the teams, and the ability to play out and play through the press, always finding the right solutions to get out and making it look really easy as well in terms of creating those spaces, the movements off the ball to create those spaces. It's that's just the work of a coach that is a modern coach and is on the training ground is doing fantastic stuff with his players. Bologna, I don't think they're going to be able to keep hold. I'm sure they're not going to be able to keep hold of Thiago Motta past this season. So just enjoy him while you can, Bologna, because what he's doing with this Bologna team is amazing. And you're right. You look at their team, and their team isn't full of stars, really. There's some good players. There's some very good players. I like Dan Ndoye. I think he's very, very, very good. Got pace. He's good at direct attack. He's not a very good finisher at all. His final ball is not always up to it. But he's a dangerous player. Orsolini is not a top player, but he's a good player to watch. Then you've got Lewis Ferguson is a goal threat. He's been scoring goals. Salamakers. These are good to very good players, but they're not top players. They're not players they don't have players that should be putting Bologna anywhere close to a Champions League place. Yeah, I think
you're absolutely right. But Calafiori, again, Spalletti has to call him up. He has to call him up for the Italy national team. He is that good. When you consistently play well against the best strikers in the league, and you do so for a team that is overperforming and is in the top four when they have no business being there, Calafiori needs a call up to the Italy national team just so they can look at him at least.
No, yeah, well, with Italy struggling for centre backs, the unfortunate thing, no, I agree, but the unfortunate thing, of course, is that it would be nice if he was a right centre back. The left centre back, we've got Acerbi, we've got Bastoni. We're really struggling for right centre backs, aren't we? But yeah, I agree. It's great to see him developing. Let's hope he can carry on. I do have to say though, Xerxes has been the surprise revelation of the season. We've spoken about him before. Again, he was amazing this game. They couldn't get near him. Everything that went up to him, he's just so physically strong. He holds it up so well. He gets out of tight spaces with his quick feet, brings others into play. He's just an outlet at all times. He relieves the pressure. He's been great. And Bologna have been fantastic. And this is the best Bologna now since the late 1990s when we were growing up as kids, and they got to the semi-finals of the UEFA Cup. They won the Intertoto Cup. They had players like Giuseppe Signori, Kenneth Anderson, who we had on our podcast and told us some great stories about that Bologna team. Marocchi. The season before that, they had Roberto Baggio, who had an amazing season to get back in the Italy squad for the World Cup. That Bologna team was a great Bologna team to watch back then. This is the best Bologna team since. If I'm not mistaken, I don't think they've been in Europe since then. Like since that season, I don't think they've been in Europe again since then.
I can't remember.
Unless I'm forgetting, I can't remember them being back in Europe. So if they get back into Europe, that will be great. But from the Roma point of view, though, Nima, there's only one. Well, there's one thing we have to talk about: José Mourinho going full Mourinho and taking off Renato Sanchez 19 minutes after bringing him in as a sub. There's two sides to this. Number one, the Renato Sanchez side of things. This transfer's turning into a total disaster. He's had 3 different injuries already. He's missed 13 games due to injury. When he has played, like he barely hasn't really been fit, and he hasn't played well. Full stop. And together with Osimhen, who on paper look like really good signings, neither of them have worked. It looks like they've given up with Aouar already. And judging on this, I know Mourinho apologised after the game, but it's not looking good for Renato Sanchez either.
No, it's not. And Mourinho, like I said on the Monday pod I think last week with Adrian when he was on, I've never seen Mourinho like this, because he's actually got a very golden chance to get Roma back into the Champions League in what is essentially his last season in charge at Roma, because I can't imagine this continuing past this season. But he's ruining it by his negative body language, his negative attitude. It's one thing to create a us against the world mentality, but Mourinho has just gone full on toxic against everything and everyone, and there's no need for them to be that. They're actually, I think I saw in the last month or so they'd won the most points in the Serie A after Inter and Juve. Like there was, things were looking good for them. There was no need. There's no need for him to go this toxic. I get the whole, if it's one thing if he, he's criticizing other people and referees and putting the pressure on them to give his team an advantage, that's fine. But he's gone full toxic internally now as well. And Roma's an already very unstable place. He's not helping. And to be honest, I think for large parts of that game, Bologna outplayed Roma.
Yeah, I looked at the XG in the first half, and it was 0.13 for Roma. I mean, listen, it was never going to be easy, especially attacking wise, when you're without Dybala and Lukaku. But that is also down to Mourinho and just like what he has instilled into his team increasingly over his time at Roma. And it's really gone too far this season, like just overly aggressive, dirty. I think it was the word you used.
Yeah, dirty.
Undisciplined, lacking discipline, and getting red cards and suspensions, and this is what happens when you're like that. So yeah, it's Roma need to get themselves together. They're still very much in the race for the top 4, but yeah, this was not a good game for them. The rest of the weekend games: Lecce 2, Frosinone 1, Torino 1, Empoli 0. Fiorentina, who are right up there as well for the top 4 race still, and Udinese 2. Sassuolo 2, late comeback for Sassuolo.
I mean, I got to say, those 2 games were insane. Udinese were 2-0 up. Things were going great. They get one man sent off for one of the dumbest challenges I've ever seen. Okay, the first penalty was dubious. The second penalty was clear as day. That was 2 points thrown away. If I was an Udinese fan, I'd be fuming.
They've done that a lot this season. They've thrown away got late on quite a few games.
Just unnecessarily for no reason as well. And it's just like they can't afford to do that. And Verona, okay, Taracciano was unbelievable in that game saving, but Verona will be kicking themselves. Ngonge missed 3 sitters, and I mean 3 sitters. One was an open goal from a yard out. It was just insane how they didn't get a point in that game, Verona. And Verona can't afford to miss 3 sitters in a game. And Fiorentina were lucky to win that game. And I think they will acknowledge that. But that was an important win for them. But yeah, no, it was a weird afternoon in the Serie A.
Yeah, it certainly was. Right, okay, let's move on and talk about the Champions League Last-16 draw, which was done on, just about an hour ago, since we're recording this early afternoon on Monday. So I'll read out the 8 fixtures. It's not been a great draw for the Italian teams. Porto versus Arsenal, Napoli, Barcelona, PSG, Real Sociedad, Inter, Atletico Madrid, PSV, Borussia Dortmund, Lazio versus Bayern Munich, Copenhagen, Man City, Leipzig, Real Madrid. The Italian teams will play the first legs at home because they were the runners-up in their group. So let's go through this one by one. Let's start with Inter then. Atletico Madrid. How do you feel about that, Nima?
I mean, on paper, it's a 50-50. Some would say maybe Inter are slight favourites. I wouldn't. I'd say it's a 50-50 game. Atletico Madrid are no mugs. And Cholo Simeone, they're a gritty side, Atletico, and they're a difficult side to break down. And Inter struggle against gritty sides. They have a lot of talent in that team. Griezmann, Morata. I mean, Morata's having the season of his lifetime. Griezmann's been excellent. Saul, Koke, Llorente, De Paul. I mean, they have Jan Oblak, fantastic goalkeeper. No, they are a good side. It's going to be difficult for Inter, and I would have preferred Inter to be drawn with Man City, like I said on Monday, for the reasons I outlined on the Monday pod. But of course, this is going to be played in February, March, so we're quite a bit away from that. So we don't know how both of these teams go into these games. But on paper, it's one of the better draws Inter could have gotten. I mean, because obviously Bayern Munich would have been a nightmare, because I think they're the strongest side left in the Champions League. Arsenal, City are all, good.
Yeah, I mean, look, the positive way of looking at this is Inter have missed the big guns. So they've missed whatever you want to say about Man City. You don't want to play Man City, you don't want to play Real Madrid, you don't want to play Bayern Munich, and you probably want to miss Arsenal as well. So you've missed the kind of like the four teams that you really don't want to play. So you're really, the only, on paper, if we're talking about just on paper, the only better draw I think that on paper Inter could have got was probably Borussia Dortmund. Yeah. So in that sense, that's the positive way of looking at it. But the negative is that, it's the kind of team that they're going to play smart tactically. They're not going to leave the spaces in behind, which Inter are so good at exploiting. So it's going to be tricky from that point of view. And like you said, Griezmann and Morata have been on fire this season. They've been really, really good.
They have quality players. They have a quality midfield, Atletico Madrid, and they have a coach who is always prepared tactically. But I think Simone should approach this game the same way he approached the Napoli game away, the same way he approached maybe City in the Champions League final as well. If he does that, and basically, because I don't think this is going to be a high-scoring affair. I think it's going to be very tight. And if Inter can be ruthless, then Inter.
The good thing is that I feel like Inter can match Atletico physically now. That's for sure, and that's where Atletico physically and mentally, Atletico are so good physically and mentally, and I feel like that's what I was saying before about how complete Inter are. I feel like that they can match them there. They've got the experience, getting to the final. They've got the physical, powerful players. They can match them on set pieces. We know how dangerous Atletico are at set pieces. So I feel like they can match them. They can match Atletico's strengths, and then I feel like they've got the extra quality Inter have to be. They're better. They've got better quality than Atletico. So yeah.
And two former teammates at Lazio playing each other, Simeone having played at Inter, Lautaro having already done a medical to sign for Atletico before signing for Inter. I mean, there's lots of talking points and
lots of subplots. Let's move on to the other two. Let's start off with Napoli. Napoli against Barcelona. I'm not sure how to feel about this one, because I feel like, again, with Napoli, I think I said the other day before the draw that the way that Napoli are playing now, I would back every other team to beat Napoli over two legs. The way that Napoli have been this season, the form that they're in, the way they're playing. But 2 months is a long time, so we hope that Napoli are better. But I also add that Barcelona are also really struggling this season. They're not playing well. There's a lot of Xavi's under a lot of pressure. Robert Lewandowski is starting to look his age now. Lewandowski, he's not looking like the same Lewandowski. I'm not going to write him off, but he's not looking like the same Robert Lewandowski. And the Barcelona defense looks like it can concede goals, and when you've got two world-class attackers, so I'm trying to be optimistic. What do you think, Nima? My biggest concern is what it's been all season, and that is, I just think that with Rudy Garcia and now with Walter Mazzarri, I just think they're ex-coaches, and I don't trust them against anyone. That's my issue.
I think you're right. I think your concerns that you're raising are true and valid. I think this was one of my. I mean, I tweeted out my dream draw, and I had Napoli against Barcelona, because I think Napoli have the quality to hurt this Barcelona. I really do think so. But they need to come into that game with confidence, and they need to come into that game with Osimhen, Kvicha, Raspadori all on fire and wanting to do this. They have to put all the negativity and nonsense on one side and, try to win a couple of games and build a winning streak in the Serie A to be in a more comfortable position in the league and then go into that. I think this is 51-49 for Barcelona. I think this is a very evenly match tie. And I think Napoli have every chance to go through. I really do think so. It's going to be very exciting. I think we're going to see lots of goals. But it's I give Napoli a very good chance to go through. For me, it's almost 50-50. Slight advantage for Barcelona.
Yeah, I'm not sure I'm as positive as you are, but let's just hope that Napoli can turn things around. If they play like they do this season, I don't give them any chance. Finally, though, one team that we certainly can't give it any chance, or can't even give a hope in hell, really, of them going through. It's Lazio against Bayern Munich. It's not who. The question here isn't really who's going through. It's how many goals are Bayern Munich going to win by. Unfortunately.
Look, let me put it to you this way. Even if Lazio, because the first leg will be played at the Stadio Olimpico in Rome, where we've had magical nights before, even if Lazio win by a goal, 1-0, or 2 goals, by some miracle at the Olimpico, Bayern is going to rip them apart at the home. It's just Bayern Munich at home in the second leg are just another animal. You need to have at least 3-goal lead going in a tie with that when you play them away, because the way that the machine. I mean, I know they struggle in the Bundesliga and they feel like they're playing at 50% of their potential, but I just look at them and this is literally the worst draw that Lazio could have gotten. Literally the worst draw. And it ends here, but it's been a good run for Lazio. They got through. They've done what we could ask of them. I hope that they can, make their fans happy in the first leg at home at the Stadio Olimpico and maybe get a result there. But then away to Bayern, it's like you said. The question is not if Bayern go through. The question is by how many goals.
Absolutely, yeah. Right, okay. I do have to say the English team's got two great draws, didn't they? Man City against Copenhagen. I mean, you just can't make it up, can you? Man City. When was the last time Man City ever had a hard draw in these early knockout games? They always seem to get,
or the group stage even.
Or ever. And Arsenal got Porto. Porto are always a nasty. They're kind of like a mini Atletico Madrid, aren't they?
Exactly.
But yeah, I mean, it's again. Looking at the other teams in the draw, Arsenal are going to be very happy with that. Europa League draw. 2 Italian teams in this. This is for the playoff rounds. The teams that finished second in the Europa League groups playing against the teams that finished third in the Champions League. So Milan have got Rennes. Milan coming down from the Champions League, and Roma have got Feyenoord. That Roma Feyenoord, I mean, these two teams, they play each other every single year. This is the third.
I mean, this is 21-22 season. It's the 5th knockout stage game between Feyenoord and Roma. They played in the Conference League final. They played last year, I think it was in the Europa League
quarterfinal,
yeah, and then now again in the playoff round. It's always been toxic, and they absolutely don't like each other. And the question is not if Mourinho gets sent off. The question is when Mourinho gets sent off in this game.
Oh, yeah.
And in which one of the legs.
I can't wait for the pre-match press conferences. Because what's his name, the manager of Feyenoord? Because I remember he was having a go at Mourinho, so he doesn't like the football he plays and everything. Yeah.
Yeah, no,
it's not a great draw, though, because Feyenoord are good. I was really impressed with them against Atletico Madrid. In the first game, they deserved to win that game, and then they played against Lazio. They hammered Lazio in Holland, and then they didn't deserve to lose at the Stadio Olimpico. They deserved at least a draw in that game. So I think it's going to be difficult. It's going to be a difficult game, but obviously the fact that Roma probably have the psychological advantage having won those games. As for Milan, Rennes are having a disastrous season. They're fighting against relegation. They were really good last season. They're fighting against relegation. I think they're 4th from bottom in Liga. So if it's again like Napoli, if it's the Rennes that are playing now, then you're picking Milan every day of the week. But if it's an improved Rennes, it could be a little bit more difficult. Atalanta are already in the last 16 draw because they won their group, and the same is the case for Fiorentina in the Conference League as well. They don't play, so we won't know who they're playing in the last 16 until the next playoff round fixtures are played. Okay, let's finish off with Baggio, Premface and Serie Ass of the week. Baggio of the week. I've got one. I've just written it down. Do you have one? I've got the moment that Crystal Palace are losing 2-0 to Manchester City at the weekend. They scored to make it 2-1. Then they equalised the 6th minute of injury time. And the images of Roy Hodgson laughing at Pep Guardiola in his face are just hilarious. I love Roy Hodgson. I love how grumpy he is. He's just a grumpy old man. Like, I just love it. Like, even when like Palace score, like he's just a grump, isn't he? He's just an old grump. I love it.
The reason you love it is because you recognise yourself.
That's me, isn't it? When I get older, or maybe now.
I was going to say now. You literally are an old man.
It reminds me. It reminds me of when Roy Hodgson came on our podcast. I think I told this story, and we tried to like we finish off with most of our interviews. We play a rapid fire game where we give the interviewee two options, like Messi or Ronaldo, and they just have to choose one or the other, Pele or Maradona, pizza or fish and chips. So we started doing that with Roy Hodgson, he hated it so much. He got so grumpy. And he started, like, first of all, he quoted Oscar Wilde saying that all comparisons are odious. Right? Yeah. And then he just, Nima, like, I was kind of frantically like messaging Nima saying, let's just stop the game. He doesn't enjoy this. Like, he doesn't want to play it. Let's just stop it. But Nima didn't see the message, or he just ignored the message. And Nima just carried on asking the questions to him. And he was getting increasingly like angrier and angrier, getting redder and redder. And then he just snapped and he goes, why am I playing this game? He goes, I don't even know why am I come on this podcast? I don't even know why I came on this podcast. He just started losing it. Oh, it was so funny.
Very funny.
Yeah.
Very, very funny.
Right. Talking about funny, Premface of the week. Gone, do you want to do this one?
No, you do that. You do it. I just, you do it. You kind of did the best parody of this whole week. So.
Well, that's what I mean. I've done enough of it. Okay, Jason Cundy. So Jason Cundy of TalkSport, and everybody that knows Jason Cundy, or Jason Cunty, as we call him, is that he says a lot of stupid things, a lot of Premface things. So you would think, Nima, that having like banged on for the whole group stage about how Newcastle, should be qualifying and the best team in the group, that you'd have thought that when Newcastle actually get knocked out of the Champions League and finish last and lose at home to Milan, that you would kind of become a little bit humble and maybe say, okay, fair play. But no, Newcastle have gone out of the Champions League. Straight after the game, Jason Cundy says that Newcastle would win the Serie A and they would win Liga. They would finish above PSG in Liga and win the title, and they would finish above Milan and above Inter as well and win the Serie A title. And he also added that they would go toe-to-toe with Dortmund to win the Bundesliga. So
Bayern Munich
don't exist, apparently.
He is unbelievable. Like, it's just... but the thing is, though, one thing about Jason Cundy is this: he's entertaining because he's so defiant in his sticking to his guns with nonsense that it becomes funny. It becomes genuinely entertaining. He's defiant. He reminds me of this American broadcaster, sports, who's just the same way, but with American sports. Mike Francesa. He is the British English version of Mike Francesa, and just defiantly refuses to admit that he's wrong. And when he's confronted with things that he said in the past that he's wrong, he just blindly says, "I never said that." And he's just,
It reminds me of the footballing version of Alf Garnett. I don't know if you've ever seen. If you haven't, well, actually, I probably wouldn't recommend you see it, but it's kind of infamous TV from the 1960s and 70s in England. One of the most infamous TV characters. It's from a program, British sitcom called Till Death Do Us Part. And this Alf Garnett is this working class racist who he's always complaining and moaning, but and he's all and yeah. Anyway, he's people. If you know, you know. He reminds me of Alf Garnett. He's just so loud and proud with his ignorance.
Well, exactly, and that's how I feel. That's exactly what Jason Cunny, but is entertaining as well. He is entertaining. I will give you that much. I think he's more entertaining than most people on that radio channel. If I'm perfectly honest, on TalkSport, he's funny because he's so he is entertaining, and he talks so much rubbish, and he just never ever gives up, which is just hilarious. And he can't ever say I was wrong or anything. Instead, he just doubles and triples down, and he just gets so.
How can you say that after Newcastle have gone out? They've just gone out and come bottom.
Because
they've come bottom of their Champions League group, and you say they're going to win the Serie A and win Liga. I mean, it's just.
I think it was because his entire shtick was that they underperformed, and I think it was building towards Eddie Howe. I should have done better or whatever with his squad. I think that's what he was building to.
Nima defends Jason Cundy.
No, I don't defend him. I just think he's incredibly entertaining. I do think he's very entertaining, and he's so like, for me, it's like Mike Francesa. If you know, you know. I mean, he's just out there. It's very, very funny. It's entertaining. It's very entertaining.
Okay, talking about. Well, I would say definitely not entertaining. Serie Ass of the week. Go on, you take away this one. There's three. There's three this week, but I mean, there's probably more.
The Reinders goal, when after Reinders scores and they post a photo of him and then they delete it and says he's got serious Riz. Now, from what I understand, what Riz...
I know what Riz is, and I don't have to ask youth offenders either, like what it means. I know what Riz means. I know what it means. It means charisma. It means charisma.
Yeah, but doesn't it also mean to chat someone up?
Well, yeah, sort of that kind of charisma. Yeah.
And how's that relating to Reinders?
That's the point. That's what makes it an ass. I mean, it doesn't make any sense at all.
And then they deleted it as well, and it was just like,
yeah. It makes no sense. It makes no sense at all.
And then the Kanye West post, I didn't get that either.
So they posted a picture of Federico Chiesa kind of pulling a kind of frustrated kind of face. And then they put the caption, "At Kanye West didn't drop today."
What does that mean?
Again, I don't know. Does it drop an album maybe? And Chiesa's supposed to be unhappy about the fact that Kanye West didn't drop an album? I mean, I don't know.
It's just weird, and that's the moment when you see yourself on the big screen at the stadium. They
posted a video of a woman at the stadium, and then she sees herself on camera, and then they just put the moment when you see yourself on the big screen at the stadium. So again, I mean, I don't know. I don't know how that's supposed to...
Her expression wasn't like... It's one thing if people are happy and, smart. She didn't even do that.
That's what I mean. If it's a kind of a noteworthy expression, like they put it's something memorable, you know, something that stands out. But it wasn't. It was just a woman looking at the camera and not even doing anything. She
didn't even smile. She didn't even do anything. Like, if she had done that and were like, oh, look at me, I'm on the camera, then fine. But it was just a woman who saw herself on the camera and didn't even acknowledge it. Like, it was so awkward. I know. It was so awkward. Yeah, it was weird.
It's just, what can you say?
Conquering North America. Remember, they've conquered North America.
Oh, my God. They need to be sent on a marketing course, I think. That's what they need to do.
What's going on there? Yeah.
So that's just three, but I mean, there's so many every single week. Just all you have to do is just follow the Serie A.
Follow them on social.
Follow them and send them to us as well. If you ever see anything, we're not going to just do the Serie A. We're going to do clubs as well. Like we had Juventus. We had Juventus last week for the Henry Kissinger post, but so we will do clubs.
And of course, the Italian players of the Oscar del Calcio last week with Kvaratskhelia misspelled, romanized his name.
Yeah.
On an award.
Yeah.
And misspelt it.
That's unbelievable. That is.
That is just.
That reminds me. When I was 15 years old, I won the top goal scorer award for my under 15s team, and the award that I got had. Do you know what it had written on the award?
Well, if it's Gargamel, I'll die.
No. It didn't have my name on it. It just said TGS. That's what it had. It meant top goal scorer, but instead of writing top goal scorer, they just got TGS written on it. That was my award. TGS.
The print shop charges per letter.
Well, that's what I assume that was the case. Yeah. that was the case.
Yes.
Yeah.
TGS.
I went up. It was at our Christmas party. I went up to collect the award. I looked at it. It said TGS. I was like, "What the fuck's this?" Like,
TGS. Gonna die. TGS.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
Right.
Brilliant.
Okay.
Was this at Luton or was it in Brent?
No. This was just for my under 15 local side. This was
Bedford.
Yeah, in Bedford. Yeah, in Bedford. Yeah, that's my Bedford story for today.
Brilliant.
Great. Okay, right. Let's leave it at that. So we'll be back on Tuesday for the Q&A. Then we have we can announce it actually. So we did an interview today this morning with Paul Ince, the former Inter and Manchester United player, which was fantastic. Some of the stories he told us were absolutely amazing. He told us about a party that he had in, we won't give it all away, a party that was held by Nicola Berti, who was a party animal. And at that party, there was all these the characters, movie stars.
Joe Pesci was there.
Pesci was one of them. Yeah, we won't give away any more of it, but it was an amazing story. So yeah, we were going to release that. Unfortunately, we can't release it as a pod, which we're really disappointed about because we couldn't get the clearance to publish it as a pod, but we will be publishing it as an article, so you'll still be able to read it. It was a great interview. Fantastic, amazing anecdotes and stories from his time at Inter, stuff that I hadn't heard about actually. So it's really interesting. So I'd recommend reading that. And then we're going to do a podcast on the weekend games as well over Christmas. We are going to do it. So that will be the final pod of the week.
Yeah, at some point we'll do that, and it'll be much more. We'll do we're going to do it around Christmas, so you guys have got something to listen to over Christmas, and then we'll be back either on New Year's or around New Year's again, and then we're back to normal again.
Yeah.
So just so you know, next week there won't be a Q&A pod. But we'll be back with a Q&A pod after that. But yeah, this week, Q&A Tuesday, Paul Ince written article out on Wednesday, Thursday, and then we'll do a reaction to the week's Friday, Saturday's Serie A games on the Sunday.
Yeah, I think that's how it will work out. Yeah. Great. Okay, right, let's leave it at that. Have a good week, everyone. We'll see you on Tuesday for the Q&A. Ciao.